It's VB MMA picks for Dana White Contender Series Week 4 with the man himself, VB. I'm Ramon Scott. We have Dana White Contender Series action this week, VB, week number 4. Well, we finally saw one of the fighters not get a contract. I guess, 13 out of 14 sure seems automatic, but 5 more bouts this week. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I had pretty good reads last week, but I just took too many props. As far as money lines on the show, we went 3-1. Could have been 4-0 easily. Like, with the fight was very, very close to being over and close. The decision loss. It happens. 3-1. And this week, I hope we have 5 fights, not 4 like last week. But
Yeah.
let's
That was a bummer, but still an entertaining show last week with some good moments. We'll preview the 5 fights for this week. Who's the next star in the UFC? You're going to tell me who's going to win these bouts. Let's get going with this week's show, and thank you for everyone joining us. All right, VB, we're going to look at a couple of welterweights here with 30-year-old Brazilian Carlos Prates. He's going up against Mitch Ramirez, a 30-year-old fighting out of Utah. Prates, 16-6, got a couple of wins in one fighting, 2-1 in one fighting championships, 2-0 in LFA's, won 8 straight, dating back to April of 19 for Ramirez. 7-0, 1-0 in LFA a while back. He was last seen in XMMA back in May. These are welterweights.
Yeah. This fight, honestly, like, I thought I was gonna pass on, in the beginning because the lines seemed kind of accurate. But after more tape, I kind of like Prates. Like, I watched tape on him. He's pretty dangerous fighter. Like, he has a lot of power, and he has like one punch KO, not like KO power. And he even like his jabs are even like nasty, and he fights long and he hits hard. His head kicks are good as well, and there are a lot of things I like about him. Like Mitch Ramirez, like, good fighter. But it's like kind of doesn't fight well. Like, he's 6'2". He's not like short guy, but he fights like he's a short guy kind of, and he doesn't really like do like anything really that well. He's kind of like jack of all trades, kind of master of none. Like, he's good everywhere, but like not great anywhere. It's kind of, you know, he has kicks. Yeah, he kicks a lot. His last fight he stopped the fight by leg kicks, but like that was against a pretty low level fighter. And then before that he actually knocked out a good fighter like this guy IED. He knocked out this good grappler. But like, I'm not overly impressed, honestly. I think it's Prates' fight to win. I think he's the kind of guy that Dana would want to sign, in my opinion. He's the kind of guy that UFC is looking for. More exciting action, more finisher, like more of a finisher than the other guy. Especially, I think, when Mitch gets to UFC level and this kind of level, I don't think he finishes many people. Um, like, he went to a decision with a guy who was like 3-7, and Prates usually like takes people of people like he just picks them apart and knocks them out. So usually he takes care of those guys. So I think Prates is gonna get a finish here. Of course, like, I would lean under here. So far, we don't have props. But as soon as they come out, I'm gonna be interested. And Prates' kickboxing is good. Like, even in one, he was fighting, very, very decent competition compared to a Mitch, who like never really fought anybody good. Like, on his record, you don't really see anybody that's like stands out. That he beat. Maybe the guy ID, as I said, is a good grappler, but the guy has like, some bad head movement and kind of hittable. So if you catch him early, you probably can stop that guy, and before he kind of gets his wrestling going. So the way to beat that guy is early, and Mitch beat him early. But I think if that fight extended, probably ID would have won. But yeah, he caught him early, but I don't think he's gonna catch Mitch Ramirez. I mean, not Mitch Prates early. I think Mitch is gonna be a little bit like slow starter here. He's probably gonna lose the first round. If he's still conscious, he may lose the second. I think in the third he may pick it up more, but I think it's gonna be too late if it actually goes there. But I kind of lean under. If Prates wins, I think he finds a finish. He's better kickboxer. He has some kickboxing fights. He just has more, in my opinion. I think UFC wants a guy like him more than Mitch. So I think this is his fight to win as a favorite. I'm gonna take him here. I'm gonna bet him too.
All right. Prates here, welterweights on Tuesday night. Yeah, he figures to take the public action here, I would imagine, given the run up and what we've heard so far from cappers. All right, VB. Next up, let's take a look at middleweights with Marco Tulio Silva, is a 28-year-old Brazilian. He's 9-1. He's got a win in LFA. He won his last bout back in January. He's going up against 31-year-old Yusri you might help me on the Belgaroui. How about that, VB? 5-2, 4-2 in UAE Warriors. He won his last fight in February for his second straight win. VB Tulio Silva was expected to fight Val Woodburn in this fight, but Woodburn was pulled, and he's going to end up facing Bo Nickel. So Bo Nickel, who had to fight for his way, so underrated to get into UFC, but here you go with Val Woodburn. He goes right on by the Contender series, but we do have Marco Tulio Silva to go up against Belgaroui here, who is a favorite. Belgaroui from the Netherlands, fighting out of Connecticut.
Yeah, that's right. He's actually training with Glover Teixeira in his gym. And of course, Alex Pereira. What's interesting? He actually faced Alex Pereira before. He actually got knocked out by Alex Pereira in their last fight, but I believe the first fight he actually by decision against Alex. But I think that that was a long time ago, and I think that usually is a little bit sharper striker than what he shows today. The guy who fought Alex Pereira is better fighter than what I see today. To be honest, they fought 3 times, and the second fight Alex got the stoppage by TKO cut, and the third fight he got knocked out out cold. So it seemed like he wasn't the same guy in later. He got knocked out by Alex. Of course, the kind of knockout is not good for you. And then it comes to MMA. Only for he's been fighting for 2 years. And that's not a lot. In MMA, you got a lot of things to learn. And guy like Tulio Silva, who's been fighting longer, 6 years now, and he's been fighting kind of all his life. He trains at Shoot the Box Diego Lima gym. He can grapple. He can take you down. In his last fight, he actually almost got the submission, but the other guy was massive dude. He was 6'7" or something. The guy was so big. He was able to get up, and then Tulio Silva knocked him out. So that was a good win there. He also has a win over Glaico Franca, who is PFL fighter, UFC fighter. He's a pretty good fighter. Franca has wins over Sadi Busti and some good people. So he's a good fighter. So beating him by knockout is impressive too. But usually I would say skill for skill, he's a better striker. But in MMA, he's facing such a low level competition. There is nobody he beat that I can point out. Oh, look who he beats. And nobody. The last 2 guys he beat are 5-7 and 10-12. Before it, he loses to a guy who I really don't rate high, Mohamed Oseli, 5-2 guy who is on a losing streak. Right now, he lost his last 2 by finishes by 20-second knockout and rear naked choke. And before that, he loses to Ahmed Sami, who actually has a pretty bad chance. So not stopping him was honestly surprising to me, when they fought. But it seems like usually right now is living the life that is kind of comfortable for him. I mean, of course, he wants to be a fighter, but like I think Julio wants to be a fighter a little bit more. Like he just, he wants it more kind of. Usually, like he's driving this like expensive cars, he's living good life already. I think he kind of, you know, he's not as hungry as maybe Silva is. Like when Silva actually watched this fight where he got knocked out against Alexandre. Alexandre is a like huge puncher. He caught him, and the guy, he's not like great fighter, but in that fight, Marco was kind of missing a lot. He got tired. He got his nose, I think, broken, and then Alexandre just knocked him out. But that was like 2018. I think Marco was like 22 years old, at that time. So he learned a lot from that, I think, But that guy, I think, beats people that usually lost to. So like it's a kind of hard stylistic fight for Marco, because I think if he doesn't wrestle, usually he's probably gonna pick him apart. But at the same time, I don't see why he wouldn't take him down. If he has any brain, like he would go for a takedown here, and he would probably end up on top. Probably, he could end up in a position that he could get a sub or ground and pound, finish. You gotta like you gotta real like probably think that, oh, like usually he's training with Glover, he's gonna improve his wrestling and take down defense, and this and that. But I don't think he could really improve takedown defense in few camps. Like he's been fighting in MMA for 2 years, and he's been in that gym for a few months, I think. So I don't know if that's gonna help, because even like his last loss, right? He was getting taken down over and over. That was less than a year ago, I think. So in that fight, he didn't really look that improved, but he got up a few times. But the guy is not a wrestler. The guy he fought is a striker, and he was taking him down. So it's like if Mohammed is taking him down, who's a striker, a guy who, I think Marco has been training jiu-jitsu. I think he's credentialed, jiu-jitsu player, practitioner. So like he should probably sub him if he really goes for it. I don't see why he wouldn't go for it. You know, but this is Contender series, and sometimes people just do stupid stuff. I hope it's not Marco. I hope he's not going out there so he impresses everybody and gets a knockout, because I think taking the guy down and summoning him is also impressive. I think he still gets signed. So I think UFC is in a win-win situation here. Either guy winning is interesting for fans. I think I would lean with the guy who has more ways to win, which is Marco. At plus 140, this fight could be one takedown away, and this could be over. Um, usually never really faced anybody caliber of Tulio Silva, like not even close. And he lost to people who I think are not even, you know, are not even making 2 rounds with Tulio Silva. So I don't know. It seems like sketchy fight, because one thing I'm worried about is Tulio Silva a little bit getting tired. Like I can see him getting a lot of takedowns early, and by round 2 and 3, he's been a little bit more tired. Because usually his cardio is pretty good. He he was getting taken down, but like in those fights, even though he's been controlled, in round in rounds 2 and 3, he still lands more. Like he usually wins the third round, even though he's been kind of getting controlled for the first 10 minutes. So I'm kind of afraid that Tulio does like too much, goes for a like weird like a choke, some kind of arm triangle choke or something, gets his arms kind of burned out. So I hope he just makes it um just not goes too much, just makes it a little bit safer for himself. So I'm gonna take him at plus 140. I gotta do it. I would like to see props also, like to do submission is interesting. I mean, it's probably gonna be lined crazy, and I may sprinkle. Usually round 3 could be interesting look. I don't think people are gonna rate it like high, but I think it's live. So as soon as props come out, I have some more work to do. So you guys check my MMA page. Link is in the description below. So I'm gonna have a full card by tomorrow evening ready. So check it
That's
out.
at betmma.tips. Maybe you're
Yeah.
familiar with that, but if not, betmma.tips. Get VB's DWCS picks there for free. Just found it interesting, VB, that you promote a guy, Woodburn, to take on Bo Nichols. We continue to baby him along in his career. And here, Belgaroui favored over the guy you're picking as a dog, maybe two guys that might be, you said both these guys with promise to reach the organization, and they've taken another guy to go fight Nichols. So maybe one of these two guys should be fighting Nickel rather than
Yeah, I think
coddling him
usually
along like they do.
usually would be a little bit like less interesting. I think Nickel just would take him down and control. Like Tulio would have been much harder fight than Woodburn. So that's a good point that UFC signed a guy who they thought was gonna probably lose to. I mean, I think probably Tulio loses to Nickel as well, but I think like he wouldn't look like that spectacular. I think Tulio would probably extend it a little bit more, So
Okay. So Woodburn, a fighter. What do you have enough information, or do you have an opinion whether or not? Maybe not who you would have picked, but Woodburn, if he would have been taking on Tulio Silva, would he also
I would
be
I would
favored?
pick. I already like saw that fight before it was canceled. I already had an eye on Tulio, in that fight, so I was gonna pick for sure
Okay.
Tulio in that fight, yeah. But usually again, like his kickboxing is, no joke. I mean, the guy can strike, and even he went to like split decision with Adesanya, and the guy was good striker. I just don't think he's training as like hard and as he wants it as bad as Tulio. That doesn't mean he can't get a knockout, of course. Guy can strike and he has power, but I just think guy who has more ways to win, right? Is usually the guy I want, like at plus 140 with wrestling advantage. That's pretty much it.
Didn't want to give Bo Nickel too much grief, but again, coddling. Got to keep that zero up there as long as they can, I guess. All right. Let's take a look now at featherweights. VB in this one. You've got 27-year-old Matteo Vogel from Ottawa, Ontario. He's 8-2, 3-1 in TKO, 3-0 in Battlefield Fight League. He's won 3 straight, dating back to his last bout in April, going up here against Timothy Cuamba, the home team. He's fighting out of Las Vegas. 6-1, 3-0 in Cage Fury, but hasn't been seen since December of 22. VB. Here we go with featherweights. Vogel and Cuamba. Timothy Vogel. I'll fix that graphic there for you.
Yeah. This fight, I think this fight is gonna be probably a little bit boring. I don't think this is gonna be like Tulio Silva and usually I could be wrong, of course.
It's a tight line, though.
Yeah, it's tight line, but I don't think it's gonna be like as crazy as Tulio and usually. I could be wrong again. Like any Contender Series fight can go anywhere. Like that's what I learned. But Vogel, I've been betting this guy for a couple of fights now in Canada, BFL. He got the job done last couple of times. He was a dog in one of them. Actually, what's interesting, like guy who fought last night, Garrett Enfield, who got a knockout win, he actually has a loss to Vogel, by rear naked choke. So we saw Garrett Enfield do pretty well last night, get a knockout. So the guy actually lost to, Matteo. So that was an interesting thing to see. Also, Matteo has one loss to Xavier by upkick, like it was illegal upkick. So you could say, he's 8-1 really. That DQ loss. I don't know what to make of that, And the other loss is to Damon Blackshear, who is also a UFC fighter, pretty good grappler, Timothy is like, he's a striker for most part, in my opinion. Like he doesn't really like grapple that much, but he can grapple. In some fights he has to grapple. Like when people shoot on him, he kind of ends up on top. He goes for ground and pound. In the last fight he went, a lot of ground and pound, and he got the finish. But I think this is good, kind of stylistically good fight for Matteo. I think he's gonna get on his back a lot. I think he's gonna find, some kind of rear naked choke or maybe ground and pound finish here. I really think so. Maybe I'm trying. Like I think Mateo's grappling is really good. Um, he gets to like people's backs and he kind of people just don't get out, you know. So his cardio is also good. I like his cardio. He has a lot of round 3 finishes, round 2 finishes, you know. So he's gonna push the pace here. Early, it's gonna be close. I wouldn't be shocked if like Timothy wins the first, you know. But I think Matthew is UFC level because I mean, as I mentioned, he beat a guy who just won a fight last night, right? So he is UFC level, and you know, I think he's gonna get it done by decision here. Um, it's gonna be a little bit harder to finish team. I think he's kind of, you know, tough guy, but he's been choked out before, and I wouldn't be shocked though, you know, if he gets top tier. But I will lean towards the decision here. This is a big fight. They may strike a little bit, you know, so it's gonna take time for Matteo to get on like dominant positions, you know, because I can see a fight where they're striking and at some point Matteo just gets a takedown or gets his back to kind of win a round, you know. So maybe late round 2, round 3 kind of finish could happen at the end of the second or at the end of the third round, you know. That kind of finish could happen. But I kind of would lean more decision. But of course, we gotta see the odds. If odds are saying that it's no way this guy gets a submission, then I may bet it because I think he could. There's a chance he gets it, but you know, I would lean towards the decision a little bit more. But we'll see. As I mentioned, probably not gonna be the most exciting fight this one, but
Okay, I get it. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be kind of good. You know, technical fight. It's, you know, if you like grappling, I think this is gonna have some grappling. But again, Contender series, we have seen grapplers strike all of a sudden to get a knockout and get knocked out. You know, so I hope Matteo just uses the right game plan here, which he has done in the last couple of fights and looked good. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's go.
All right. Well, I mentioned, Cuamba's experience in Cage Fury, and Vogel fought Blackshear, although he lost in Cage Fury. So, all right, Vogel it is. So we'll take him
Yeah.
as a favorite here on Tuesday night. All right. Next up, well, VB, they can't all be uh, coin flips, if you will, but you do have here in this one heavyweights. 28-year-old Chandler Cole. He's 10-3, former Ultimate Fighter contestant. 0-1 in LFA, 0-1 in PFL, but those were quite a while ago. I believe maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So he was last seen in Showcase MMA back in March. Big underdog here to 28-year-old Thomas Petersen. He fights out of Minnesota. He's 7-1, 6-1 in LFAs, 1-2 straight. Last seen in January. Big favorite here on Petersen. Maybe opened as low, 750. I mean, this one is, not because of the action. This one opened as a big favorite here. So, is there a storyline to this?
Yeah, it seems that like Chandler has some kind of arm injury for like a long time now. You know, that's always his problem. As far as like this fight goes, I mean, you know, Chandler, I saw a season in Tough where he was fighting. He's a little bit like not that usually heavyweight. He throws like spinning wheel kicks, and you know he's not like the most athletic guy, but he throws very athletic spinning back kicks and wheel kicks and all kinds of like crazy stuff. But he like rarely really lands those or wins fights by them. You know, it's more like to be flashy, I guess, because his most of his wins are literally him on top of somebody like getting ground and pound from back or from like their backs in a mount or getting a choke or something like that. It's more like ground and pound finishes he has. He's not UFC level fighter. Like I will make it very clear. I don't. If he somehow pulls this upset, I mean, if he pulls it off, props to him. But he's still not UFC level. If he beats Petersen, I think Petersen is probably gonna knock him out. To be honest, Peterson has power. He doesn't really fight smart though. Like he's hittable and he, like sometimes grapples people who he just can knock out. Like I don't get it, but he gets it done for the most part. If you fights like low level, like he usually finishes those low level people. He actually fought like Valdo Acosta, who also fought last night, and he was doing pretty well in that fight before the finish. Waldo looked really good last night, getting a knockout himself. So he was kind of winning that fight, and then he got kind of tired, and Waldo was able to take over and stop him. But that's kind of a good look, I would say, even though he lost. And last two fights, I mean, I can't say much, very low level fighters. They were there to lose. I believe Petersen was -1,000, -1,500 in those fights. So he was like a massive favorite, in those fights. And that's kind of his career, Like he's always been a big favorite against Valdo. He was also favorite, but he lost that one. And then
Oh,
now he's facing a guy who, yeah, is 5'10", not fast, reach advantage, probably to Peterson too. And I don't know. I don't know. Like it looks like Peterson knockout to me. If it's minus number, I'm not interested though. Like it could be a decision. Like, I just don't trust either of them. But Peterson is definitely a favorite here. Like Chandler Cole, yeah, the only thing he has is reach advantage, really, like 3 inches, But that's, I don't think it helps really. He doesn't really have good striking, or he just doesn't really have any process. Like he just throws his flashy kicks. It looks good. It looks great, but doesn't really like land those, And then if he wins those fights, it's usually like ground and pound finishes. Anytime he faces anybody who can punch hard, he loses the fight. So, if you look at his record, all three those are by knockout. So that's kind of what Thomas does: finish people who can take shots. So I get the line. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for props. There's nothing to play here.
yeah.
We'll see what props are.
The pick is listed on screen because you're just, saying that the line is correct. We're not telling you to go out there and lay $8 necessarily on this bout, VB. You'll have your props up for this one, but just reiterating the point that it's one-sided. I don't know. I'm just a random. Yeah, I might just play Cole. I can't pass something like that up. All right, that's okay. I'll wait for the props, but I don't know. 550. All right, BB. We'll see what you got. Keep your eye posted at Bet MMA Tips .tips, and maybe pick up that play for that one, which looks to be one-sided. Okay, BB, this is the main event of the night, and you can set it up for us. You got lightweights here. Balaji Oki, the 27-year-old Belgium. He's 7-1. 2-1 in European beatdown. He won 7 straight. His last 3 was in Atomic. The last fight was in March, going up against 30-year-old Dylan Salvador from France, currently fighting out of Atlanta. He's 5-1. He's coming off wins in Eagle Fight Club and UAE Warriors. Those fights were, the Eagle Fight Club, I believe, was in January. The Warriors fight was in October. VB Oki and Salvador lightweights. I can't wait to see VB Oki's signature move, the Okie dokie.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this fight, man, honestly, is like, it took me some time to really get to the bet here because when you look at the Dylan's side, he also was a kickboxer. He fought like Giga, who won last night. He has a win over him in kickboxing, but like in MMA, this guy like all of a sudden like is submitting people now. Like, well, I don't know what's going on. He has 1 knockout, 4 submissions in 5 wins. So I guess you gotta say he's improving his ground game. But if you look at the people he's facing, though, like I don't know. Like, well, the last guy he beat is, I guess, fine. By submission, but other guys he submitted are not good. 2-11. The one guy was 5-2. 6-3. But I don't think any of the really good grapplers. But Salvador is athletic, and he was able to like get some video positions. In his last fight, he fought this guy Jumayev, who, he got taken down a few times by that guy. It was kind of back and forth fight. He was landing like hard shots there. in the third round, like the guy goes for a guillotine and gets one flu choked, So, before that he fought in Eagle FC. He fought a guy who was kind of wrestling with him. He was striking in the beginning, but in the clinch he was landing like nasty knees, and the other guy just got beat up in the clinch basically. He couldn't continue, he was getting like kneed to the belly. He kind of got exhausted, and he couldn't really continue. Kind of, retired on stool basically. Like he, yeah, he kind of quit. But before it he lost to Ali Zabian. I don't really think Ali Zabian is a good fighter, but it was a split decision. So he's been fighting in MMA for 3 years now, 4 years. Oki, is like training with good people. I just checked his IG, and he's training in Extreme Couture with Sean Strickland and those guys. Like he seems to be like a little bit more. I don't know how to say. Like I guess like in the clinch, I think Dylan is a little bit stronger and bigger. But like if you look at like way they fight, like Dylan doesn't really care if he gets taken down. Like he fights like there is no takedown coming. When Oki fights, he always is like very, aware that there's a takedown possible. So I think if Dylan gets like overconfident in striking, Oki probably could time double like here, and take him down. To be honest, I wouldn't be shocked. That being said, I think Dylan also can Oki down. Like the tape I watched, I think these guys are similar, and there are some positions that are gonna be close in this fight. I think there's gonna be reversals on the ground and stuff like that if it goes there. On the feet, I mean, Ogi is a good striker. He has good movements. He has nasty knees. Like last guy he knocked out by a knee to the liver was very impressive. Before that he beat a guy who was 14-0. This guy Nair. And I look at his record and I say like, wow, 14-0 guy, like impressive. Let's see who he is, But that guy is 14-0, has 14 finishes. But then I look at who he faced. The guy faced 14 civilians. Like the guy has faced absolutely the lowest competition. 0-0 guys, 0-1, 0-5, 0-7. Some guys are 45 years old, like 47 years old. He was 14-0, but like I don't know. I probably could have been 14-0 myself facing those guys, So like I don't know. But yeah, he won a decision against that guy. The guy was a good fighter. So like he's not a bad fighter, even though he's beat only like low level competition. He's a good finisher, but Ogi was landing a lot of jobs in that fight. He was getting to him. I don't know. It seems like a close fight to me. I don't think like anybody should be like huge favorite here. I would like literally line this fight 50-50. Like it's hard to really pick a side. I'm gonna go with Ogi though. He's training in a gym that I think is gonna help him. Like he's gonna get good training partners there. He's gonna spar a lot. He also is like 27 years old. Like he could improve every camp. He seems to be really focused on MMA, which I like too. So we'll see. One thing I didn't like with Salvador is like in these fights, like he missed weight like a lot. Like I think in 5 wins he missed weight 3 times. Not only he missed weight at 155, he no my bad. Not only he missed weight at 145, he also missed weight at 155. So I don't know, like what is he thinking? Like why is he not taking MMA serious? Because his kickboxing career was good. So I don't know what to make of that. Like, why would you miss weight? Okay, you missed weight at 145, but even at 155, he missed weight. So like, that wasn't a good look. While Loki is like seems to be dialed in. He's in a good gym. He's basically every day training with high level people, and if Dylan doesn't even like, do we know that Dylan's gonna wrestle here? Like, he maybe doesn't even wrestle. Because last guy he fought, the other guy was pushing wrestling, and then Dylan was ending on top and he was defending takedowns and stuff. So if you get striking fights, I think Oki is live. I don't think it's a mismatch because Dylan had like good career, in kickboxing. I think it's still very winnable for Oki. And again, one thing I don't like, I'm kind of worried about is Oki in the clinch. I think Dylan is strong physically. His knees are nasty, so probably that's gonna get to Oki. So I hope Oki either gets on top on the ground or he just keeps it like striking in the distance. Because close, I think Dylan has like nasty knees. Not to say that Oki doesn't have like nasty knees. He won last fight by knee to the liver, but Dylan has like a little bit like stockier physique and a little bit stronger, it seems to be, in the clinch. But we'll see. I mean, I think it's 50-50 fight. A 50-50 fight, I'm gonna go with the dog. If you give me plus 135, I'm gonna take him. But again, I told you this fight is high, like very very coin flip. Like it's coin flip fight. I don't know what to make of Oki's like wins either. Like I told you, he's facing global competition himself. So like again, very volatile fight, 50-50. Like I'm gonna take a dog for 1 unit, but if it was plus 110, I probably wouldn't have. If it's going up, I think people may even get 150 on Oki. We'll see where it goes. At 50-50 fight, you want a dog. So I told you it's very volatile though. Like be careful. In contenders in general, be careful. Like you can really bet a lot, and let's also wait for props. Those are gonna be interesting.
All right, well, pick up VB's props at betmma.tips and also follow VB MMA Picks on X. You get all the latest information from VB on the cards, on his pick cards, and upcoming fight cards, not only in the UFC, but throughout mixed martial arts. Okay, VB, great job. Thank you so much. We get ready for another Dana White Contender Series week 4 this week, and the UFC heads to Paris for Gon and Spivak. Should be a great week, VB.
Yeah, we'll be back in a few days with UFC breakdowns, and see you there.
All righty. For VB, I'm Ramon Scott. Thank you for joining us.